Have my feet lift off the ground. Keep pushing through and don't be scared if you fall down. They'll try to tear me down, tell me to give in, but I'll stay right with you. 'Cause I know who I am. We try to work it out, and we gon' get there together. 'Cause if I knew that better days were coming round, what would I do? Have my feet lift off the ground, keep pushing through, and don't be scared if you fall down. They'll try to tear me down, tell me to give in, but I'll stay right with you. 'Cause I know who I am. We try to work it out, and we gon' get there together. 'Cause if I knew that better days were coming round, what would I do? Have my feet lift off the ground, keep pushing through, and don't be scared if you fall down.
Hi, everybody. Good evening. My name is Marcy Ober, and I'm thrilled that you have joined us for our speaker series, To Your Wellness. I am the co-founder of the Crazy Girl Project, and along with my now 19-year-old daughter, we founded this project together with the goal of busting mental health stigma with humor and connection, and providing teaching tools so that we can take as good care of ourselves as we possibly can. Anybody who struggles with mental illness understands how difficult a situation it is. And if you love somebody that struggles with mental illness and you're taking care of them or trying to find ways to help them, it's a difficult process. And so we believe that knowledge is power. And we call this the Crazy Girl Project with a K because we're rebranding the concept of crazy. We're going from crazy, suffering, struggling, dealing with what we're dealing with, to becoming crazy empowered, which is knowing who we are, knowing what works for us, getting out of the shadow, not giving into any stigma, owning our crazy, and doing wonderful things with it. So that's what the speaker series is all about. And tonight we have an amazing guest, and I'll tell you a little bit about our guest. She is a comedian and a lifestyle expert. Her name is Carey Reilly, and you have seen her in many places. She is on the Today Show. You've seen her on CNN, on Fox and Friends, the Joy Behar Show, the Food Network, and so much more. She was also named a top 50 influencer and a brand ambassador for O, the Oprah magazine. Carey is seriously funny and also smart, warm, engaging, and an all-around amazing human being. And we are so lucky to welcome Carey to the show. So, Carey.
Hello.
Hi, good to see
Thanks
you.
for having me. I'm going to go up a little bit. There we go. Oh, even better. Even better.
Here. I'm going to toast you and say I'm so glad you're here. Hello.
I too. Thank you.
We're going to have a nice little beverage together. Before I forget, I want to let everybody know that you're going to be with us for an after party, rare opportunity to spend some time connecting with you, asking you questions. And so for anybody that that needs access to that, right here, I got to put it over here on the group, there's a Zoom link. Ooh, see if I did that way. Right there's the Zoom link. And so click that, and you will be able to connect with Carey and I after the show. So welcome to that, Carey. Tell us a little bit about yourself. How did you come to be a comedian, a lifestyle expert? Like,
I know
about us. Yes,
it's a lot of business. I started doing, it was interesting when I started. I'm an actress and I've always done acting, but I was very frustrated when I first moved to New York City that I didn't decide when I worked. I didn't decide when I could be creative because ultimately a casting director decided that I'd audition. And then if I got a job, I worked. So I was like, I just want to get up on a stage every night. So I started doing stand up. I took a class and I loved it. And people, I made people laugh and it made me feel good. And I always took it as, it wasn't the kind of comedy that you see where, it's mean comedy. I always took it as I wanted to make the audience my friends and make them laugh about whatever's happening in my life that's mostly, making fun of myself. I'm always the one with toilet paper on their shoe coming out of the bathroom.
I love that. And people might think, why am I having a conversation with a comedian on a mental health day? But really, laughter is the best medicine. And I think that if we can, even laugh through some of our most challenging times, it helps us get through and it helps us, be present and enjoy our lives. So I know that you have actually, I'm going to start here if that's okay with you. I know you've been through a lot in your life. I know that when you were 8, you lost your father tragically, and it was a traumatic event for sure for you. Can you tell us a little bit about what you experienced and what you went through?
Yeah. So like you said, so I was 8 years old. My brother was 10. My sister was 13, I believe. Yeah, she was 13. And my mom was 37, and we were having dinner, and my father had a heart attack at dinner and he died. And it was awful. Of course, as you can imagine, and it was very startling and tragic and traumatic. But what was interesting about it is we had a little bit of therapy that was brought in. We had a woman that came in and she met with us as a group. And I think we did that a handful of times. But really, I needed more. I needed a lot more therapy. I really needed like a weekly check-in. And when you're a kid though, you're in the moment. You don't think you need any of it. And but it's really to help when you get into your 20s and 30s and you keep moving on. I mean, I'm in my 40s and I'm still healing from it, which sounds ridiculous. But I really was drawn to humor because we were tired of crying. There was so much crying and so much pain, and when you laugh, you're in the moment. There's no thought of what happened before or the future. It's just in the now. And I think that's why I was so attracted to it.
Mm-hmm. Do you remember the first time that you realized I can make people laugh and what that felt like for you?
I don't particularly remember. It was a fine line because if you figure out you're funny and then you start looking for ways to be funny, because now that's your shtick, which is fine. And I did do that. You have to know the line that's drawn, which is you're going for it. And if it falls on its face, or you lay an egg, as we say, or, we say that lay an egg on the stage if you didn't do well, then you have to be willing to accept that. And I do remember that. I remember that as a kid, trying to do some laughs and do some jokes rather. And I didn't get the laughs. And I remember my face burning up and just being like, oh, I thought, you know what? No, I know I get laughs. I just have to figure out how to hone this better so that I don't strike out so much.
Wow. So that was like vulnerability, like really just feeling it, letting yourself go through it and saying, I'm not going to let this stop me. And I want to do this anyway.
Yeah. And also, I grew up Catholic. So I was in a Catholic school. We had mass every morning at school. I mean, it was a lot of shame. And so, it might be really gross, but you asked me for my earliest memory.
Okay.
I remember being in 5th grade. Now, my father had died 2 years prior. And I was he died 1 year prior. So I was in 4th grade. And I was in the classroom and I was 4th grade. And I had to go to the bathroom. And I had to go to the bathroom because I had to go to the bathroom. And I remember sitting there going, oh, this is not good. And I started to sit on my bottom to try to make something go away. And then I was like, I have to go to the bathroom. So I raised my hand. And I remember Sister Michael Kevin going, and I remember saying, can I go to the bathroom? And she goes, I don't know. Can you? Do you want some tuna with your can? Can you? Or may I go to the lavatory? I was like, I don't know what laboratory. So I was like, may I please go to the bathroom? Fine. So it was study hall, and there was a whole classroom of 25 kids silently reading. Because if you didn't, you got hit by a ruler. And I remember going to the front of the classroom. And now I am making my way to the front of the classroom, and I am puttering. I am slowly tooting all the way up to the classroom. And I got to the door, and I remember putting my hand right on that door, and it just went, the whole thing went out.
Oh.
And I remember running into that bathroom, and I thought I wanted to flush my head down the toilet. I was sobbing, crying. And I'm thinking, oh my God, I can never go to school again. I can never go to school again. I was so upset. And I remember a girl came in, she's like, did you just fart? Like, everybody thinks you farted. Did you? I was like, no, I didn't. But in that moment, I was like, you know what? I have to own it. Yeah, so what? It was a moment of like, I'm always crying anyways. I might as well just own that it happened, or else it's going to be something else that's stressing me out. And I don't have time for it. Yeah, I did. What of it?
Wow.
It sounds like a simple, like maybe crude thing to tell, but it is the moment that stood out to me. Like, yeah, sorry, I didn't mean it.
I think that's huge. And to own that, that's what we're trying to do with Crazy Girl, right? Like take back a concept of crazy and just say, okay, so what? Like Michael Phelps, after like he got caught smoking pot, he's like, so what? I'm like, good for you. Own it, right? Because
Own it
is the thing that makes us feel like whatever we're going through, the shame of that is almost worse sometimes than the actual affliction. So to say, yeah, I'm going through this, I'm experiencing this, or I've had this, or yeah, I farted, so what? I imagine that must have been quite a moment for you. Wow.
It sounds so funny, but it really was. I was, 11, 10. It was morbidly embarrassing, but I'm also an anxious person. I was anxious then. And so that would have just taken my body over and my mind over for days. And so I do remember thinking, what am I going to do? Oh,
wow.
wow.
Did your friends find you funny? Like at that point, like were you funny in certain places, or like did that become like an identity you took on? Like what did you do with that?
Well, everybody wants to be a superlative, right? So you want to be the prettiest, you want the best eyes, you want to be the whatever, best skin, whatever it is. I wasn't any of those. I wasn't the prettiest. I didn't have the knockout body. I just didn't. And so I think at some point I was like, you know what? I can be funny and I can be real. And I because I had my childhood was separated into a before and an after, because when your parent dies, you really grow up fast. Mm-hmm. Your childhood is over. Mm-hmm. And you are looking at your friend that's crying because they didn't get the right, curling iron for Christmas. And you're like, really? That's what we cry over? Mm-hmm. I got real stuff going on over here. Mm-hmm. And you do feel different and more mature in that way.
I think so too. Yeah.
Yeah, that what matters. So I just remember, I do remember just trying to be funny or being funny. But that was sort of like my one thing I had.
Yeah, well, I think there's a lot of things. You're very smart. You're very beautiful. I'm not buying this. This is the one thing I have. You have that. You have so much more because you're also deep. And I want to say that I think that you understand people on a deep level. And I know this about you, and you care about people on a really deep level. And it's probably because of the things that you went through early in your life. So you had like the yin and the yang, right? You had this side that you showed to people and you made them feel good and you connected with them. But you also had your own private world where you went through what you went through. And I mean, that's like the yin and the yang. There's a lot going on with that.
Yeah, it is a bit of a yin. And also, like, now I'm more self-aware. I think, as a younger kid, I also like to push buttons. I also like, as we all do, we all have things that we're trying to figure out where they belong. Mm-hmm. And so I think it took me a while to figure that part out. Mm-hmm. And also to figure out my mental health. Like I struggled through, I would say, and my mother has no idea when I told her this, I would say most often as a kid, I thought about killing myself.
Did you?
Yeah. And I never got to a point where I was going to do it or knew how to do it or whatever. But the pain was just too much that I just prayed I just wasn't alive all the time. Wow. Because it was just so overwhelming and it just felt endless. Mm-hmm. It really did feel endless. When you're a kid, you don't know it's going to be great tomorrow. And you don't realize in 10 years, you know, you're going to lose 20 pounds and move to New York. You don't know that.
Yes. Yeah.
Really great fitting bra. You don't know that at that age.
And I wish we could see, that's part of what I want to do with this too, is share so many different faces of you. You know, people can look at us and think we're this or you're that, but I think that we all have the things that we go through, and I think that we don't share them and we don't talk about them, and I think it makes it harder for everybody that's like, you know, trying to find their way, and they don't have any role models or anybody that's beautiful or funny or famous that they can say, wow, she went through this, she had this traumatic loss, and she, you know, felt hopeless. I think we have to be talking about this a whole lot more. Really important.
I think we do too. And I also think that, and I come from a family where I remember one time my mom said to me, you know, people don't want like you to be so honest and tell them like if you're upset or anything. People don't want that. I was like, oh, but they're getting it. So I'm different in that way with my family, and and they sort of look at me like, here comes Carey, you know, you're going to hear something you don't want to hear, which isn't true. I mean, I'm not a wrecking ball, but I do feel like you just said yesterday, for example, I was with someone and I was being vulnerable and I was telling a little bit about what we're talking about, being a child and stuff. And that person shared with me that they were actually abused as a kid, sexually. And then after she went, oh, God, I don't know if I've ever told another adult that. But see, I was vulnerable telling my deepest, darkest. And then because of that, she's like, I'm going to share mine. And so I think we all have to realize that it really does help people when you share your story.
Yeah, for sure.
And your uglies, share all your uglies.
I think it's really hard for people. I think we're afraid of being judged. I think we're afraid that, you know, if people know this about us, they're going to think this or that. You know, it's hard to break through that and to feel like, okay, I'm going through what I'm going through, or my kid. I can't tell you how many times I hear this from parents whose kids are struggling or suffering, and they won't talk about it. They don't want people to see their kids differently. And so that silent stigma that we carry within ourselves is, I think that's something that's one of the hardest frontiers to break through. That self-judgment, right?
Yeah, it is the self-judgment, but also when kids are struggling, like what you're saying, or being, you know, I'm a mom of 2 kids. I think it's also a lesson in that we all went through it. They're just going through it now. You know, we have to stop judging the kids that are having the hard time and realize, you know, that there's somebody's child in there.
That's right. That's right. Especially now. And I have to say, I hope you don't mind me bringing this up. I know that, you know, I'll go back and say Friday, the 13th of March, everybody's world changed, right? I mean, you know, there was before, there was after. I was wondering if you could share a little bit about like a day in your life before kind of COVID hit, and kind of how things have changed for you personally since then.
Yeah. So, it was March 12th for us. So it was the Thursday. And I had the following week, the week of the 17th, I was preparing because the following week I had 4 national segments I was getting ready for. So I go on TV and I talk about different products. I might do, you know, this was actually going to be St. Patrick's Day entertaining I was doing. And then I was, it was for two were for the Today Show, Fox and Friends, and another Fox show. So, and then they were canceled. And then it just went, whoop, gone. So all of a sudden it was very quickly like, oh, so we don't, like at first, you know, it felt like a snow day, right? For a couple of days. And then for me, the fear set in, which I think we've all had this fear of, and it was a lot like the 9/11 fear I had after 9/11. It was just like the world stopped and we all listened and trying to figure it out. And then unfortunately, a dear friend of ours in our family, he got sick. And he's actually Sergeant Rob Roberts, and he is a officer here in our town in Jersey, but he's a very dear friend, and his wife are a dear friend. He's actually my husband's best friend, and he got COVID, and he passed away ultimately because he was in the hospital for 3 weeks. He passed away on, why is it my blanking on this? April 21st. He collapsed in cardiac arrest. And then he passed away May 11th. And it was on the cover of the New York Times. His funeral because the procession in town, thousands of people lined the streets. It was really beautiful, but it's been very difficult. It's been very hard because his 3 kids are amazing, and they're almost the same age I was when I saw my father die. And so I thought, I think about a week before COVID, I was talking to you and I said, I don't know how wide my window of tolerance is if something really bad were to happen. I don't know if I'd make it, because I've seen that before and it was really painful. It took me a long time to get over it. And then this has been very, very painful. But I do see that, like, the human spirit wants to survive. It wants to thrive. It wants to live. And it will find its way one day at a time, 1 hour at a time sometimes. But it does get there.
I can't imagine having gone through what you went through personally in your growing up years and then suffering through this, like, right in your home, in your family. I mean, and I know that you have been such a rock to your friend and to these children. And I'm sure that you personally, having gone through what you've gone through, are like an angel to them, because, it's one thing. Listen, therapy is great, and I'm a therapist and I really believe in it, but there are so many ways that we humans connect with each other or share or learn or grow. And I just think you being there for these kids and understanding what this actually feels like, you're going to be the best medicine for them. No question about that.
I hope so. Otherwise, for what reason? Hopefully, that I can help. I mean, that'll really be that would feel great. Hopefully. I don't know. I hope I say the right things at the right time.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I think that sometimes we just have to be who we are and trust, that loving presence, and we don't have to think these things through in advance. You just, do your thing, and, we connect.
Well, that's the thing. We said, here's the key. Our house is your house. It's open. You want to come here, and they have a room up on our 3rd floor. It's got 2 beds in it. They can, just be here. We didn't have anything like that. That's the biggest thing, I think, that can be very, very tough for people right now during COVID. I mean, I know I have a particular situation where I lost someone, but even just in COVID, I think it's been very isolating. I think depression is obviously at an all-time high. And, anxiety, it's something.
Oh, it is. And that
for each other as a community helps. Yeah.
Without question. Well, that's really why I started the speaker series, is I want to bring it out to people, to their living rooms. And I think that I want to ask you about laughter in terms of how it is medicine.
Yeah.
And, how that can help during such difficult times like COVID, or like, through our dark times. How can we use humor? Because I'll be very honest, I think I've been really accused of being humorless. I'm not funny. I don't laugh enough. I would like to laugh more.
Really?
I don't. I had a father who was very funny. My father was hysterical, and we were always laughing with him. But I don't know. I think that passed over me somehow.
You were a good audience.
I think I was. I mean, I love to laugh with him and watch him laugh. But, like, how do we bring more of that into our own lives? What can we do to, like, channel that? Because I think that energy is so important.
Yeah. No, I agree. It is important. I think I always look at anything crazy that's going on and just try to look at it at different angles and see if there's anything that could be funny. Now, where's the funny usually going to come from is if I'm, instinctively being selfish about something, or it's usually about me being vulnerable or just telling my truths, if that makes sense. When I told you this the other day, I'll give you an example. When I was, this was probably the 4th day after Rob had passed, maybe the 3rd, but it was right before the day of the funeral. And our whole town has mourned, and there are blue lights on people's doors. We clapped at 7 p.m. every night. This town was in pain. And so I remember I was up all night. I wasn't sleeping. And by 4:30, 5 o'clock, I had gotten up and I put on a robe because it was still a little chilly. And I went outside, cup of coffee, sun's, kind of coming up, not quite. And I just start picking weeds. I must have been out there an hour. And then the door swings open with my husband at the door, and he says, "Hey, Vinny the Chin, what are you doing out there? You're crazy. Get back inside. Your robe on. What are you doing? And I just stopped and I just howled. I just laughed so hard. I don't even know who Vinny the Chin was. It was just, he caught me in a moment, and that's comedy. You're going this way and you take a sharp left and you don't expect it, and then you laugh. And I just went, oh my God. And that's what Rob would have wanted. Rob would have just thought that was so funny. If you don't know who Vinny the Chin is,
I do not know who Vinny the Chin is. Please tell us about Vinny the Chin.
Apparently he was a mob boss, and he had to go to trial. And in order for him to plead insanity, he decided to look insane under surveillance. So he would go outside in his robe and just walk around the sidewalks. So he talking to himself.
So that was the defense. That was like how he was going to like get off.
Yeah. So he thought they've got, I'm under surveillance. They're going to have video of me looking crazy out here, and I'll get off for insanity.
I love it.
So that's why he called it Vinny the Chin.
Did it work? Was he?
I don't know. I have to look up the outcome.
We should look up the outcome.
They should.
But
So
it made
that's why you call me Vinny the Chin.
even in one of those discombobulated moments, it just took you out of that moment and like.
It did. I was sobbing. I'd already been sobbing, and when I get really nervous, my hand shakes. So my hand was shaking a little bit, and I'm getting stuff up, and I'm just like, how did we lose Rob? How did we lose Rob to COVID? And then he just, Vinny the Chin, what do you do? And that is one thing that's great about my husband. And I think, like you were saying, how do you bring humor into your life? I think like we aren't uptight anymore. We had to learn this, right? Humor usually comes in safe places, unless you are a, comedian where you know how to carve it out and create it, because there's rules to humor. It's not the wild frontier necessarily. But when you're in safe spaces with each other, that's when you can take that chance and be vulnerable and try to be funny. So that, I think step one is just creating safe spaces amongst, your close circle and your friends, so that you can say whatever you want. That they're going to look at you and be like, what? And you can be like, oh, I don't know. You don't care. It's fine. You don't, it doesn't matter if they think what you said wasn't the smartest or they loved it and it was hysterical.
Yeah.
There's this wonderful little meme I've seen, and I always think of it, and I tell my kids, but I do think of it in terms of comedy. There's a little bird in a nest, and the bird says, but he's about to fly out, and he's like, but what if I fall? And the mother says, but what if you fly?
Oh,
wouldn't that be great?
I love that.
So that's a little bit about like with comedy. It's just you just go for it. It's worth it to me to get a laugh and risk looking like an ass.
But it sounds to me, and tell me if I'm wrong, that you do it at your own expense. It's not like you're doing this at other people's expenses. You're not poking fun at other people. No, it's all about you. It's kind of like,
I'm not making fun of anyone else.
Uh-huh.
No. Unless we have a relationship and we think it's cute and fun, but it's never below the belt, and it's always making fun of myself. But when I make fun of myself, whatever insecurity I have, chances are you're gonna laugh because you're gonna see that in yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why you're gonna think it's funny. People only think it's funny if it's true. Bernard Shaw, what did he said? You better make them laugh. If you don't, they're gonna kill you. Right. So I mean, people really just, that's I have always found that to be true. When I think a comedian is funny, it's because what he said, I've felt, I have seen, and I've said myself.
Mm.
So the more honest and specific you are about your own feelings and stuff, it'll ring true.
Do you think there's a difference in comedy for males versus females? I mean, is there something being a female comedian? Like, I know we didn't discuss this, but I'm just so curious.
Yeah, there is. I actually have shy. I'm not a stand-up comedian anymore. Anything I do, I add humor in now, but I don't do shows stand-up anymore. I do more stuff on TV, like lifestyle TV stuff. But one reason why is when I was in the clubs, it was just, to me, a lot of the men comedians it was just a lot of dirty humor that I'm not into it. And but there's some comedians that aren't like that, like Jim Gaffigan. I love. He talks about his wife and kids, and it's just so funny, and just talks about him. The more a comedian talks about themselves, I'm in. I like that. Whereas female comedians, that to me is the same thing too, I mean, I love female comedians as long as they're being truthful and talking about themselves, and it's not just all, as they call it, dick jokes.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not interested in dick jokes, but the humor is different. Like my husband, one thing that he loved about Rob, his friend, is they had the same sense of humor. And it's with him, my husband, it's always watching a movie and repeating the lines back to himself or to his buddies, like Will Ferrell and Talladega Nights. That's what they laugh about. It's so funny.
I love
I
it.
would never do that. It's not funny to me.
I love Austin Powers. I'm an Austin Powers girl.
He does this, right?
I love that. And I love all the different roles that he plays. Yeah. Very funny. Very good.
He's very funny.
So what are you doing now? If you're not doing so much, comedy and kind of things are changing, what kind of is the current thing that you're doing?
Well, yeah. I am doing, I basically help people figure out what they should buy because I like to shop.
Okay.
So being a lifestyle expert is I will go on national TV shows, local TV shows. I might show you how to DIY gifts for Father's Day. I just worked for eBay last week and did a national tour with them talking about Father's Day. I might give you a gift guide of the best toys. I do that for today.com. I do a bunch of gift guides, especially during holiday time. So someone like me, my big time to work is from like August through holiday. That's my big third and fourth quarter is a big time for me. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I spend my time, basically getting awareness for different brands across television, print. And I also do travel writing. I write about travel for Family Traveler magazine. I go on, and my family and I would go on trips for that, and it's really exciting. And we'll do video from it, and we'll talk about the region we're in and stuff. Our last one before COVID was Disney.
Wow.
So that's really what I do. And also I'm now, because I think I've gotten to a certain point recently, believe it or not, where I'm feeling pretty good. I'm in a better place now, I think, than I've been in a long time. People are afraid to like go into their 40s, but I'm just figuring it out. Maybe I'm a bloomer.
Oh yeah, it gets better.
Bloomer, or it gets better.
I think all of it. I think every bit of it. I mean, yeah. It gets better. You get more comfortable in your skin. It's just I love it. I'm much more comfortable than I was, even 10 years ago.
See, and so I really am interested in being vulnerable through my humor and starting to hopefully connect with people and helping them and kind of pulling them out of that hole. I've been in that hole a lot. I've been in the hole probably 3 or 4 times clinically depressed. Mm-hmm. And so it, it takes a lot of work to get out of it.
Mm-hmm. What works for you? Can I ask you that?
What'd you say?
What has worked for you to, help you with your depression and to?
Oh yeah. So I suffer regularly with depression and anxiety. And it's at this point, I think I remember saying this to you years ago when you were working with me. One time I couldn't get out of it. It created dysfunction in my life. And I think that's for me when I'm able to gauge in how bad is it? Is it creating dysfunction for me? And my depression was in my late 30s. And so I remember just a lot of crying. And I felt like I said to you, I'm wearing a horse blanket and it's just weighing me down, and all my, I've got all these patches of all this stuff that's bothering me. And when is this pain just going to be part of the fabric of who I am? And I can't even believe it, but I am at a point where I don't have a horse blanket on anymore. It doesn't create dysfunction in my life like it did. It might for like a day, maybe a day or two. Mm-hmm. I'll have a sting, but now it's different because I can put my hand up and I can say, this is one of my days. So I think what changed for me, you were saying 10 years ago, or I'm saying the end of my 30s to now, is I have a team of people. And I do think everybody needs a team. And that consists of my psychiatrist, because I think medicine's, for me, very important. Exercise, I've got a place I go for that. Therapy, and also safe people. My girlfriend Eileen, I can say to Eileen, It's not a good day. It's
Mhm.
like, okay, what's happening? I've got 3 girlfriends that I literally, they'll be like they know the drill, and then I
Mhm.
do it for them because they suffer the same way in different ways as well.
Mhm.
So I think putting your hand up is something you start with.
I think it's ownership, and I think it's huge because I think that the longer it takes a person to say, "Hey, I'm going down," the
Yeah.
further down you are, the harder it is to come back. And if you can catch it quick, if you notice the thoughts or whatever the symptoms are, you get to a certain age and you know what your symptoms are. Maybe it's, I'm having some thoughts, or maybe I'm having a hard time getting going, or I'm not getting out of my bathrobe, or whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'm going through this thing. Let me get on it. Let me rally the troops, or circle the wagons, or make that phone call to my therapist, my doctor, my friends. Let me get moving. And that ownership early on turns those episodes around like nothing else. The longer you wait, and I know this, the farther down you go, the harder it is to turn it around and bring it back.
Yeah, because you don't even want to make the phone call.
Well, I just, it takes hold. It actually, it's kind of like going into a quagmire. And I think the farther down, like the more it takes energy to pull out, and the less energy you have, the longer you're in the episode. So that's my words of wisdom. Like catch the episode quick, own it for what it is, no shame. It's like, okay, I got it. Let's get in there. And like the sooner you turn it around, the better the traction you have in moving out of it. And there's long periods of time between episodes, usually. Even if somebody has, a waxing and waning type, you're still going to have long periods of time in between. If you catch it early, it's best. I sort of just gone off on that, but
No, I agree. I think that's great.
for today. Yeah.
Well, I do want to say something that, because this helped me a lot, and this might help, and I've written about this, and it might help somebody as well. When in my late 30s, that was the age my mother was when my father died, 37. So I was around that age, and my daughter was around the age I was, and I don't know what happened. It just struck me, or hormones, whatever. It was a bad depression. And I remember crying to my mother on the phone, and I was I'm just, I don't know why, whatever it was I was upset about. And she finally said, you know what, I am so sorry that happened. Nobody wanted your father to die less than me. We are all so sorry, but it's not your turn anymore. It's your kid's turn. And you don't want their childhood to be about their mother crying in bed about her father. That's going to be their childhood. It's not your turn anymore. It's your children's turn, and you've got to find a way to get out of this and be there for them.
Wow.
You know what? And I don't know what happened with that, but it was like a dong. She's right. It's not my turn. It was as simple as that. It's not my turn anymore.
Wow. That's
I don't know what it was. It was a click.
Yeah. Well, thanks, Mom. Good for her, right?
Yeah.
She'll hear this and she'll say, I helped my kid.
Yeah.
I had some good words, right?
I always told you I was right.
Right. I want to tell you, I'm seeing that Vinny the Chin, his insanity plea did not get him.
It did not work.
It did not work. And he served time. And that's what I see from comments. Okay.
Oh
Vinny,
my gosh. I love that.
Insanity plea did not work. Thank you to Fig.
Thank you, Fig.
Fig, I don't know if you know, but Fig is a comedian, and she, is starting a museum. I think I know she's doing a lot of things for female.
That's amazing.
Yeah, she's amazing. All right, so listen, time is ticking, and I could talk to you for hours. I want to ask you one or two more questions.
Okay.
In terms of, words of wisdom or pearls of advice, or, what can you share with somebody, that might be going through it from your own perspective, that you would like to, share your pearls of wisdom, or your hard-earned kind of advice here? Messages of hope. I guess I'm going to call that messages of hope. What messages?
Yeah, messages of hope. No, I understand it. Well, I think that it's really hard to be able to see that it's going to be better the next day, but it will be better the next day. And so I think, a message of hope would be that, you're in it because you can't imagine what else it could be. So you just got to kind of have a blind faith that it's going to be better, and just, My mother always said, put your pajamas on, take a hot bath, and get into bed. But you should take the hot bath, then put your pajamas on, and then get into bed.
And laugh with somebody
laugh.
like Carey Reilly, who, you know, seriously, you are just a delight, a wonderful person. I love talking with you. Anything else that you can think of that you want to share with the Krazy Girls? I mean, I'm so appreciative that you've taken your time to come on and share with us. And I love this group of people. I mean, Krazy Girls aren't just girls. I call us girls, but we are all sexes and backgrounds. And anything you want to share with the group?
No, you know what? I just think that the more we can, more importantly, support each other as women. And I know people say that all the time, but it really starts on social media, on Facebook, on that moment right before you think you're going to write a comment to criticize each other. Just take a breath and don't. You know, we really need to support each other and like really support each other, applaud each other when we succeed, because someone else succeeding is your success too. And just love deeply our girlfriends, our friend, you know what I mean, our real girlfriends as a incredible, they're an incredible support group. They are for me.
Oh,
if you haven't found one, go find one.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, this group, and I have to give a shout out to this group. I've never had snark. I've never had to boot somebody off the group.
Great.
Being unkind. I don't know why the culture of this group is so positive and supportive. And we're talking about real things. I mean, we don't really, it's not a support group per se that people are really sharing their deep stuff, but sometimes people do. But I've never had a remark that I had to, you know, go to task with somebody over. So I'm so grateful for that. I think that's incredibly special. And you're a part of us, and I am so thankful that you're here. So I'm going to toast you one more time, Carey.
Sure.
I'm going to see you at the after party. For everybody, again, please, if you need the Zoom link, go onto the group. It's members only. So if you're a member of the Krazy Girl Survival group, at the very top under announcements, you'll be able to click on to the Zoom after party, and we're going to do it that way.
We're gonna have a lot of fun.
Oh, we are. I will see you over there, Carey. I cannot.
Okay, I'll see you there.
Okay. Mwah.
Mwah, mwah.
Carey, you can find Carey. Her information is up here, CareyReilly.com. She's on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Follow her. She's a funny lady and a sweetheart. Plethora of knowledge, real human being, absolutely lovely. I want to take a couple of minutes to thank all the people that go out of their way to make this whole group and series and process possible. First of all, I want to thank Courtney and all the Krazy girls that have gone through what they go through and keep going and keep sharing and keep inspiring us. We are here for you, and that's what this group and project is all about. I want to thank Carey and all of our amazing speakers. I'll talk to you in a moment about who's coming up. I want to thank Sheila and Dina from Sayer Productions, who produce our series. Fig Alley is our amazing moderator and my right-hand person, and I could never do this without you, Fig. I thank you from the bottom of my heart. Monica Wagner makes the beautiful and awesome graphics. And all of you who share your experience, your inspiration, your stories. We are so grateful to every single one of you. Next week, we have the incomparable Beryl Bender Birch. She is an icon of yoga and meditation. And every morning, Monday through Friday, either I or usually Fig lately have been hosting a watch party at 7 to 7:30. She teaches us all about yoga and meditation and how to keep our brains calm and down regulated. On the 1st of July, Heather Maloney is a singer-songwriter. Her mother, Kalo, is an original Krazy girl back in the day, and we're going to talk about making music and the mother-daughter relationship. On the 8th of July, we have Lisa Lutan, who's going to be talking about nutrition and taking care of our bodies. And on the 15th of July, Dr. Laura Berman, who I just don't even know how she's coming to speak with us, but she is, and she is the 8 times New York Times bestselling author, sex and relationship expert. So we're thrilled to have Dr. Berman. Carey Reilly, thank you so much once again. Everybody, we will see you at the after party. Mwah!